Good day and welcome to the next big thing. In this episode, we are going to meet with Dr. Harry Somaraju. He's an author, a researcher, and a personal transformation facilitator. He wears many hats. He's an avid meditator, a devoted practitioner of heart rate variability biofeedback, also known as HRVB. But in this episode, we're going to talk about his latest book that has everyone excited. Anxiety to Amazing in 60 Days. It's a wonderful book on enduring happiness and focuses on the holistic approach to sustained happiness in 60 days framework, also known as the #60 framework. Now, we're delighted to inform that after the recording of this podcast episode, Dr. Harry Somaraju was bestowed with the prestigious Literary Titan Book Award. What an honor. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hello and welcome to the next big thing wherever you are. Welcome to the show that seeks to inspire, that seeks to empower, that seeks to educate, and helping me in that mission every episode is a wonderful guest who shares their life story, their projects, and inspires each one of us. This week is no different. Joining me today is a very special guest. He's an author, researcher, and personal transformation facilitator. For nearly a quarter of a century, he's been an avid meditator and a devoted practitioner of HRVB, also known as heart rate variability biofeedback. Now, he spent a number of decades in sales, management, business, across pharmaceuticals, mortgages, real estate, and his lifelong journey and interest in psychology, in mindfulness, has led to a very successful book called Anxiety to Amazing in 60 Days. We're going to spend this podcast talking about this wonderful book and the story behind it. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Harry Somaraju. Harry, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you, Shiram. I feel wonderful, as I do most of the time. Thanks for having me on your podcast. We'll have some fun. I'm ready for it.
Absolutely. I love when you said, I feel wonderful like I do always. So that's a great statement. I'm sure that's very aspirational for a number of us who spend life fighting battles, wars, uphill struggles and trials and tribulations, all in the search of the H word, happiness, which we will talk about. And I'm sure it'll be very interesting to get your views on that. So before we get into it, there's a little tradition that we do on the next big thing. I'm sorry if I'm throwing you a little bit in the deep end here. A guest comes on the show and shares two things about themselves. One is fact and one is fiction. I don't know which one's which. And I then go out on a limb to guess and make an educated guess. So are you ready to share two things about yourself? One you've made up, one is true.
I'm always happy.
Okay.
One statement. And the other one is, I've been a great cricketer.
Wow. Okay. Here's the thing. You've thrown a googly at me because I've seen you play cricket, wonderful cricket with a lot of fervor and passion. I don't remember seeing anything else but happiness on your face when you're on the cricket field. So both statements somehow ring true to me. But because we're talking about the book and because you've spent so many years understanding emotional regulation and not just in theory, you're a practitioner of it, I'm going to go with you're always happy as the fact.
As a cricketer is not a fact.
Well, I'll go with lesser of a fact.
Fair enough. I'm not always happy.
Right.
As I introduced, I said when we started the podcast,
Right.
I'm happy most of the time. If I claim that I am happy all the time, I would be lying. Like every other human being, I have had my share of those. And I do have some of those even now. But where I think I have progressed is I know how to manage them. If I'm not unhappy, I would know why I'm unhappy pretty quickly, and I know what I should work on, which is what all which are the things that I have described in the book. And and the primary thing about that is not go chasing happiness. The more you chase, the farther it will
go away,
like a mirage. And as I've explained in the book, what I have found over a period of time is you can't chase happiness. You can never catch it. Instead, create circumstances for happiness to land in your life and your heart and your body, like a butterfly or even a helicopter. Imagine a helicopter landing on a helipad. So you prepare the helipad. And that's what I have realized. I don't work on making myself happy, but I work on creating circumstances that will allow happiness to come and land by itself.
And make a
Mm,
wonderful
so,
landing. Yes, fantastic. The helicopter analogy is very interesting because if I remember correctly, helipads often have a H in a circle. I think that H is for helicopter, but I think the H could be for happiness to come
oh,
and make
wow.
it. Make it
That's fantastic, Shiram. Yeah, I've never thought about it.
Well, you're the one who planted the seed. Yes.
Yeah, you have made it germinate. I planted the seed, but you made it germinate. I'll use this at some
Fantastic.
stage.
Good.
Helipad is happiness. Yeah, thank
Great
you.
work. Many congratulations on this book. We are going to talk about this book, and I can't wait to discuss this book. I am yet to read it. That is my disclaimer, but it has opened to rave reviews. You're talking about areas of great interest to me. I am very fascinated with this. Help us get behind the scenes. What led you to write this book?
It's a long story, but I'll just pick up the statement you made. Like all of us have gone through and keep going through difficult circumstances. Some are very intense issues, and some are daily hassles. I have been trying to find a way that would help me navigate these with cheer, happiness, and ease. One of the things that I gravitated to, like millions of others in this world, take up meditation. But meditation comes from ancient wisdom. And so I wanted to find some kind of scientific evidence for that. See whether all that is said about and claimed about mindfulness, how far can it be supported by scientific evidence. So I was studying psychology as a hobby, then I got into it, made a big pivot after years and years in business, and started doing my academia, but I went into PhD. I investigated mindfulness. Some of the claims were supported, some were refuted. But along the way, I picked up other modalities that are equally good at fostering inner peace. And one of them was heart rate variability biofeedback. Later, if there is a chance to explain how they both are a synergistic combination, I will do that. But I investigated that as well. And also another modality called positive neuroplasticity. All these are part of my PhD.
Right.
So once and university found it in its power and discretion to award me a PhD for investigating it, I was faced with two paths: whether to keep investigating it scientifically or take it to people. Like here are two extremely well validated protocols with tomes of scientific evidence. And so I thought, let me take it directly to people. But I practiced this and it worked tremendously for me and a few people I know and I'm related to. So I said, okay, let me take it directly to the people. So I said, okay, let me write a book that, unlike my scientific papers, we just sit in a library and academic people who are in academia kind of read them. I said, this book has to come out It is meant for lay people. So this is a long answer to why I wrote the book. To bring a wonderful protocol, I think this is extremely beneficial. So I put it all in the book, and so I wrote it over a year and a half, and it's there now, floating around for anybody to buy it or download it and read it.
I'm sure everyone who reads it will benefit in many ways. So thank you for putting it out there and not just storing all that knowledge. Many people go down the scientific academic path, and somehow, like even my wife, she's done a PhD, and I look at the PhD thesis and I feel like in some way we could do more to make that work reach more people. So thank you for writing a book in order to do that. You mentioned lay people as well, that you did this to sort of communicate with lay people. So in simple words, what exactly is mindfulness according to Dr. Harry Somaraju, and how does the book approach or tackle mindfulness?
Yeah, let me define mindfulness. Mindfulness, as most people know, has originated in Buddhism. At least the Western scientific world believes that it originated in Buddhism, but it has been there ages before Buddha arrived in the ancient Hindu scriptures, and different forms of that exist in Sufism, Christianity, everywhere. Mindfulness in lay language is just paying attention to whatever is happening in the moment, inside and outside us. That's a simple definition.
Yeah.
And this was extracted out of Buddhism and brought into Western psychological world by Dr. Kabat-Zinn in 1989. He wanted to treat cancer patients suffering from chronic pain. And nothing was working for them. So he introduced mindfulness in the form of mindfulness-based stress reduction. Stress in psychological sense, stress in a physical sense as well. But he actually got mindfulness. But since then, it has taken a life of its own. Mindfulness is now there in a 5-minute app to lifelong practice. So at some stage, I'll have to try and demystify. Part of it I have done in my book. But that's a kind of a cognitive approach. So you're basically training your mind to stay in the present moment and also look at the thoughts and emotions that are arising and see them as something that arises and goes away, impermanent. And also some of them are irrational. Mindfulness helps you to do that. So by doing that, you're calming yourself. In scientific words, it's a top-down approach. You're working with your mind to calm your emotions and your body. But then heart rate variability, which I got exposed to, is a bottom-up approach, because heart, you ask anyone, where do you feel this intense emotion? Immediately people put it on their heart. And where do you feel love? My heart.
Yeah.
Most emotions, at least people believe, reside in the heart area.
Heart space. Yes.
Although emotions are mediated by our brain, but that's what people feel. Heart rate variability works with the heart. Instead of working with the brain, it works with the heart. So there is a physiological way you can also work towards achieving peace and calm, but you're working from your heart. It's extremely well validated. The main thing is it has got a biofeedback attached to it. So you can see what your inner state is. When you practice it, you can see how your inner state is improving minute by minute, literally minute by minute, and day by day and year by year. So why not combine both a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach? There should be synergy. You're working with something a little abstract, which is our thoughts, but you're working with heart and your breathing and all that. Pranayama has been there for ages. So many people know about the fantastic benefits regulated breathing gives you. And that's the basis of heart rate variability biofeedback as well. So you can, that's a physiological way in which you approach the issue of cultivating happiness, more importantly, calming your autonomic nervous system. That's very important. That's where all the emotions come from. or distress comes from. Happiness also comes from there.
Right.
But so combining these two, I thought was synergistic. That is what I put in the book. But there is one more element missing from this. You do everything. Fantastic. You sit on the cushion for half an hour, feel great. You have no problem. But you go out and the busyness of your life kicks you in the gut and says, a lot of issues facing you. Come on, come into this. And
life strikes.
All the flight or fight and all the peace and calm that you have achieved goes away. So there has to be something that will allow you to integrate it into your own life, day-to-day life, because that's where the transformation takes place. No point in feeling great. It's good to feel at least half an hour calm, but then you want the rest of the life to be calm. So that's where positive neuroplasticity comes in. How to kind of integrate, etch that happiness into your neural architecture. And there are ways, simple methods by which you can achieve that.